All right, today we're going to tackle a topic that's on the minds of so many caregivers, really understanding the signs of autism. We're going to explore what those signs can look like, and maybe even more importantly, what they actually mean. This is a question that pops into the minds of so many of us. Parents, grandparents, teachers. You notice something unique and different about a child's development, and you want to understand it better. And that's exactly where this journey starts. It's a really important first step. So, before we dive any deeper, let's make sure we're all on the same page. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, isn't some kind of illness or something that's wrong. Think of it as a developmental difference in the way the brain is wired. And that word spectrum, that is the key. It means no two autistic people have the exact same story or the same traits. It's incredibly diverse. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the basics of what the spectrum really is. Then we'll look at the early signs in babies and toddlers, see how those can evolve in children and teens, and talk about some really important nuances, the things that go beyond the obvious. After that, we'll get into effective support, and we'll wrap up with a powerful question to really get you thinking. So let's dive right in. Section 1, the core foundations. To really understand the signs, we first have to get a handle on the two main areas where these differences usually show up. Pretty much everything we're going to talk about boils down to these two core areas. On one side, you've got social communication and interaction. Now, this isn't just about talking, it's the whole social dance, right? The gestures, the eye contact, that natural give and take in a conversation. And on the other side, you have restricted or repetitive patterns. This can look like a really strong need for routine or repetitive movements, or these incredibly deep, passionate interests in certain topics. It also covers unique ways of experiencing the world through the senses, like how someone reacts to sounds or textures. All right, let's see how this actually looks in the real world, especially at the very beginning. We're moving on to the earliest signs in babies and toddlers. And just a reminder, this is all about gentle awareness and observation, not about creating alarm. So, you might be wondering, how early can we even spot potential signs? Well, get this. Research has actually found that we can detect differences in how infants visually track social scenes as early as 6 months old. That's an incredible look into the earliest moments of development. This table here really lays out some of those early observations so clearly. You can see the comparison. For example, we typically expect a baby to be babbling away, right? A potential sign to just be aware of is if there's very little or no babbling by the time they hit 12 months. The same goes for things like consistently turning when they hear their name, or using those classic baby gestures, like pointing to show you something they find cool. And then, as a little one moves into those toddler years, other signs can start to become a bit more noticeable. You might see that a kiddo really needs their routine, and even a tiny change can be super distressing for them. Or maybe you notice repetitive patterns in how they play, like meticulously lining up their toys instead of, say, making them crash into each other. And something really important to look for is a loss of words they once had. That's always a good reason to go check in with a doctor. And this right here, this is so important. This research highlights a massive point. Communication is so much more than just spoken words. A delay in using gestures, pointing, showing, waving bye-bye, that can be one of the very first indicators that a child's communication is just developing on a different path. Okay, let's jump ahead a bit. As kids get older, their social world gets way more complex, right? And because of that, the signs of autism can start to look different, or maybe become more obvious than they were before. So during those preschool years, you might start to notice things like echolalia, that's when a child repeats words or phrases they hear. You might also see those incredibly passionate deep dive interests, whether it's all about dinosaurs or every single type of train. This is also when you might see how literally they take language. An idiom like, "it's raining cats and dogs," could be genuinely baffling to them. Then, boom, school hits. And the teenage years? The social demands just skyrocket. What might have been subtle before can now show up as really intense anxiety around social events, or a deep need for quiet downtime to recover after a school day. Trying to navigate all the unwritten social rules of friendships can be totally exhausting. This can lead some kids to be super direct or blunt in how they talk, which, can sometimes be misunderstood by their friends. Okay, now this next part is absolutely crucial. Before anyone starts making a checklist or jumping to conclusions, we have to talk about the context. Understanding these nuances is key to seeing the whole complete picture. First things first, and this is maybe the most important takeaway, variability. You've probably heard the saying, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And it gets repeated so often because it is 100% true. There is no single look to autism. It shows up in a huge, beautiful variety of ways. Next up is this idea of masking, or you might hear it called camouflaging. This is basically where a person learns to hide their natural autistic traits by very consciously copying the social behaviors of the non-autistic people around them. It takes a massive amount of energy, and it can often lead to burnout and other mental health struggles down the road. It's a huge reason why autism, especially in girls, can go unnoticed for years and years. And finally, let's talk about overlap. A lot of these behaviors we've discussed, they aren't exclusive to autism. They can also be signs of other things like ADHD or anxiety. And this is the bottom line. This is not a diagnostic checklist. A full, thoughtful evaluation by a trained professional is the only way to really understand what's going on for a child. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, Pathways to Effective Support. Because, observing and wondering is just step one. The real goal is figuring out how to best help a child truly thrive. So why do we talk so much about spotting these signs early? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Early support can make a world of difference. And it's not about trying to fix or change who the child is. It's about changing their environment and giving them the tools and accommodations they need to build their skills, manage sensory overload, and grow their confidence. Now, there are a bunch of really great evidence-based strategies. And the cool thing is, they're not about rigid drills or anything like that. They're often built right into daily life and play. Take something like pivotal response training. It uses a child's own passions as motivation. So if a kid loves trains, you use the trains to encourage them to communicate. Or think about simple visual schedules. These can be an absolute game changer for reducing anxiety by making the day feel predictable and safe. And look, you don't have to be a specialist to start making a positive difference. There are simple things you can try, like right now, use short, clear sentences. Offer simple choices, apple or banana, to empower them, and lean into their interests. Use what they love as a bridge to connect and learn together. A simple visual, first, then board, can literally transform tricky parts of the day. All right, we're at our final section. We've gone through a lot of signs and strategies, but I want to end by shifting our focus to perspective. I want to share this really powerful quote from an autistic woman who was diagnosed as an adult. For her and for so many others, getting a diagnosis isn't about getting a negative label. It's an explanation. It's like being handed a map that finally makes sense of the world. It can be this incredibly empowering moment of self-understanding. So I want to leave you with this one final question. What if we just shifted our whole perspective? Instead of looking at a child and asking, what's different about them? What if we instead asked, what does this unique, amazing child need to feel safe, to feel understood, and to truly thrive? That one little shift in the question we ask, it can change everything.